And we're going to move on to our first guest, which is Matt from the South Como Co-op, I think supported by Jessica tonight. So I'll hand it over to you two.
You're
Okay.
doing it.
All right. Well, it'll take me a second here to make sure. Oh, it says I need to send a request to share.
Oh,
So here we
I
go.
will. Oh, wrong one. Guys. Oh, wow. You should be good now.
Okay. Um, Just need to be able to access my Windows yet. Um, but, okay. So, hi, I'm Matt Schneider. I'm on the board of the South Como Co-op. And I'm here just to kind of present about what's been going on for us lately. We feel like this has been an important year for us, and we want to be connecting with everybody in the area about the cool things that are going on. So this is our board. You might see some faces you recognize, but at least here tonight are Jessica, our amazing president, and myself, our secretary. And we have been a group working together for a little over a year at building something what we think is special for our neighborhood. So Jess is going to recognize some of this as a pared down version of things we've talked about before, but just to make clear kind of what we are as our style of co-op, there's a lot of different versions of a co-op model. It's not a traditional business that has to prioritize high margins and high profits. There's versions for retail where they can prioritize carrying different items for sale because that's what their members, who are their customers, want. There's financial co-ops where they can reach out to different parts of the community and give loans to people who might not otherwise have access, right? Because that's what their members want. There are worker co-ops where they can prioritize the working conditions because that's what their members, the workers, want. Or housing co-ops where people own their housing together and they can prioritize how those things are managed without having an eye towards the high profit margins all the time. But we are a community investment cooperative, and that means that we're member owned and that everything is democratically operated. Everybody gets a say in voting for our board, and then it hasn't come up yet, but if we have any large decisions to make, we might also put those up for a referendum, things like that. We can be voted out if we're not doing our job. And we're focused on our community. People have to be Minnesota residents to be part of our co-op, and our focus and investments are in this area. And then we share the profit back with our community along with the risks. Instead of one person saying, gosh, I can't invest so much in my neighborhood because if it went poorly, I'd be out so much money. Instead of that, we're sharing the risk, and together we can do things like buy buildings in our neighborhood that we couldn't do on our own. And the three kind of major parts of our plan are pooling community resources, and then finding vacant or underutilized areas in our neighborhood and filling them with cool, exciting opportunities that are relevant to our community needs, whether that's housing or some type of commercial use or some, I don't know, some other use. And we have been spending the last year or so doing a lot of things, but one priority is gathering resources and funds, right? And our first source of funding was finding members, selling membership shares to become part of our co-op. People can invest local, you can maybe get a return, right? And you become a voting member of the co-op. Then, as we got closer to what I'll talk about in a moment, purchasing a property, we, for that project, decided to then sell preferred shares where you can invest more than $500. And it doesn't mean that you're a more powerful voting stake. It just means that you can reap perhaps more reward if we start paying dividends and things like that. Then we have people who've been searching high and low for community grants or connecting with other partners. And those kinds of grants can help us when we do large purchases for pre-development. Like if any of you have ever bought property before, there's a lot of things that go into it even before you sign the deal. And those cost money, right? Or renovation afterward to make sure that we're making an exciting space for commercial partners to join us. And then, of course, loans. And because we're a shared ownership model, we have some loans that we can connect with that are lower than perhaps other models have access to. And we don't have penalties on our current loan for paying back early. So it helps us be more flexible. And I think this is news even to Jessica. I did some math, and without not counting our loan that we just got for our new property, just counting actual cash or assets that we've received or gathered from whether it's our neighbors or grants, we have since just hanging out in a bar or halftime rec talking about this where it was just a gleam in our eye, this idea, we have collected $250,000.
Damn.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. It was just shy. And then I thought, I've bought food for some of these events. So that gets us over $250,000. So just that deviled eggs got us over the threshold. And that was all to get our first property. We weren't sure what our first property was going to be, but this has turned out to be a really great property for us. We purchased 978 Front Avenue, about a month ago now, and it is on the southwest corner of Chatsworth and Front. It is across the street from the cemetery and kitty corner from the mechanics. And it's a central location in the neighborhood. Whether you know it or not, you've seen it about 1,000 times at least. And it has going for it a lot of things. One is that it's mixed use. There's 2 residential units that are currently occupied with amazing tenants that are already part of our community. And we didn't have to raise their rent because that highest profit margin possible was not our priority. So we talked about what was going to be our plan, and they pay what they paid before we bought the building. And they're planning to stay, at least as far as we know, for the foreseeable future. And so we're providing housing. But there is a space in the first floor that is ready for commercial use. It has about 855 square feet with a basement for storage. There's space outdoors and in the garage, and we are looking for partners. We're looking for people who know people who are looking for somewhere to host the next cool thing that could be in our neighborhood. As part of our funding, right, we put together preferred shares. The latest total I could find on our books was a little over $114,000 were invested by neighbors together, which is really impressive. I think that, without us, with a track record of 0, we were able to connect with people and get them excited about this idea to the tune of $114,000. We were also lucky enough with some partnerships to connect with a grant for $125,000 from the local fund. That took a lot of work from members of our board to prepare all the things needed to get that grant. And I'll talk later about our partners, but we got a lot of help outside of our group as well. And then we were able to connect with, I put, instead of putting MCCD, which I always say, I put their full name because I always forget what it is.
Right.
It's the Minnesota Consortium of Community Developers, and they have a shared ownership loan with 4% interest and no penalties on paying back early. And we got a little over $300,000 loan to get started and purchase our property. And we have been through this whole process also connecting with our neighbors to find out what they want. So we've been surveying. I looked on the website for the district. You have a very similar survey with very similar results from the past few years that people want, exciting places to meet their neighbors. They want a coffee shop, they want a restaurant, bookstores, grocery stores, entertainment, things in our neighborhood where we can come together and meet each other. And when we said, well, we don't have to have profit as our highest priority, then the question was, well, what are our priorities? And our neighbors also said what they cared about when they were looking for what they wanted in their neighborhood. They wanted something affordable, something unique, community focused, and eco-friendly. And we can't make any promises that the first, is tenant in our building is going to be an eco-friendly cafe, restaurant, theater, but we're going to try our best to prioritize what our neighbors care about. And if the dividend that I get as a member of the co-op isn't, profit, it might be that I love my neighborhood that little bit more, and that's worth it to me. So our next major step is finding that commercial tenant. So here, the people in this room, the people online, anybody within shouting distance of any of us will be hearing soon that we are looking for a commercial tenant. That space is unique in that it currently is broken up. This is a kind of a rough floor plan of what will be the commercial space. It has a restroom, it has a small kitchenette. It has a lot of subdivided spaces, but all of those are kind of flexible and can go. It could be a large space for one retail tenant. It could be smaller for different professionals who all want to share an office. I don't know. It could be the smallest theater this side of the Hamlin. But if you or anyone you know has any connections to a business or partner that might be looking for a space, you can contact us at leasing@southcomocoop.org or connect with any of our board members or go to our website at southcomocoop.org and let us know what you want or what you've heard about or what you'd hate. I don't know. We can't promise anything, but we want to connect with as many possible tenants as possible and see that they can fit the vision of our co-op as well as possible. For anybody here who thinks, wow, this sounds super exciting, I want to be in on the ground floor for the next part. Of course, finding that tenant and helping us connect with partners is the most important way to get involved right now for this property. For the co-op on a whole, of course, we want members. Now, a membership share costs $500, which is not nothing, but we also have scholarship money available. It's our hope as the co-op to connect these resources, this opportunity to invest to everyone in our community, whether they have $500 to spare or not. And so if you or someone you know wants to be a member, you've been dreaming since last year to become a co-op member, and the $500 was a hurdle for you, we can make that still happen, right? Which is an example of us having priorities that are not necessarily 100% profit driven. And then just connecting with us, we have a newsletter that goes out monthly with some special quarterly things every once in a while. And there's a lot of information there for where we're going to be next if you want to meet up with us in person, if seeing me on Zoom is not enough. or come to volunteer now that we have a site, someone who said, oh, I'll shovel the walk, or I know exactly how to rewire that building so that it's going to save you a bunch of money or something like that. We would love to hear from those people. When we're buying our next property, we'll be announcing things like that, or our preferred shares are on there as well, things like that. We love to connect. We have a lot of board members who have hosted sessions at their home to connect with neighbors, just to see, what questions people have. And if you have a lot of questions, let's come to you. You can host an info session and invite all your neighbors, and one of us will come and try and answer all your questions. Or we have committee. You guys all seem to love committees. We've got committees too, especially now that we've purchased our property. We have a committee that is focused on maintaining our building and keeping it safe and ready for occupancy. We have outreach committees to connect with our neighborhood, and we have a committee for paperwork. And you might be the kind of people who love paperwork, filling out all our taxes and things like that. And then, of course, skills for small business support. We have a very dynamic, wide array of skills, but none of us own businesses to fill this spot for a reason, because we're not necessarily all business people. And we would love to connect with people who can help us with any aspect of marketing or connecting with partners in this space. That's pretty much it. I just want to say thank you. This is the most official record we're going to get. So I wanted to say thank you to our partners from Nexus and MCCD. They were the organizations that helped connect us with the local fund for our shared ownership loan and for the grant we received. And through our real estate agent, Amy Marga, she was really spent a lot of time. I don't know how much she actually profited in time versus money on this deal, but she was very curious in finding out how this could happen. And she was a great partner in this. So if you're going to start your own co-op, first of all, please don't just join ours. But if you are, she was a great partner for us. So that's all I have prepared, but it's been an exciting time for us. Connecting and purchasing this property. The people we purchased it from were really great partners as well. And we're just excited to be part of the community in this one building and become tycoons and own the whole rest of the neighborhood, but to own it together with all of you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Matt and Jessica. I think this is a great time for questions if folks have them.
When was the last time a commercial tenant was in that space?
I don't know the exact answer to that, but it was a while.
Been a while.
Was
Yeah.
that long? There was some sort of puppy thing or?
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a dog training school, I can't remember if that was before or after, so the owners had their business out of there, they did an affordable housing consulting agent, like consulting business out of there. And then, yes, there was the dog training school that was out of there before that.
Yes, that's true. That's one of our the things we've been talking about a lot is there's a lot of spaces in our neighborhood that have a business. You just can't tell, right? You can't tell from the outside whether they're open or not, and we want to make sure that as much as possible that the commercial real estate in our neighborhood is something that really benefits our neighborhood rather than it's just a warehouse that benefits whoever they ship to all across the globe.
So you don't have much in the way of parking though, correct?
Well, street parking, there's no better place in the neighborhood than there, because there's street parking on both sides. And the other side is a cemetery and they don't have a lot of cars. But yes, you're right. There's not a parking lot. Yeah.
Am I able to?
Yeah.
So Matt, congratulations, I really love this whole idea. My question was, you might have said it, when did this start? And then I also was wondering, how many individual shareholders do you have so far?
So we have, I think it's around 24, 25
as of like next week, we will have 30.
There you go. So we have people in the pipeline. Yeah. So, but 31 maybe. I don't know. And I put in April of last year because that really is the very true beginning. Jessica reached out to a few of us and we sat a few, families around some bar stools at halftime, right? And it was April Fool's Day. So we went home and told our children we bought the Scissor Wizard thing or whatever, and tried to fool them. But yeah, since April 2024. Yeah.
So what does the preferred share cost?
A preferred share can cost, we wanted to say it could be anything, but then our treasurer said, I don't want to do all the paperwork for $1. So we said, about $500 and up, you could invest $1 million in the South Como Co-op if you feel really, really, engaged with this idea, or it could be, any amount above $500.
Yeah, I'll reiterate, congratulations, and you guys put so much work into this. It's really been remarkable to watch.
Very cool to see.
And I've connected with several other district councils that have community investment co-ops in their neighborhood. Some of them have been around for a decade and haven't purchased something yet. So it really just speaks to how organized you guys are and how much things have really come together. It's been really amazing.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too, I think you kind of mentioned this, like when we closed a week before we found out that we were able to get that local fund grant. And one thing that's been really exciting is to really see this vision play out in the way that we wanted it to. We didn't think we would be able to with the first building. We were like, this will be a first building. It'll be an asset. We'll learn the process for it. But we didn't know how it was going to work out. But one of the really cool things that has happened was because, we're putting all of these different pieces together. Like I keep saying, I feel like our tenants are like the only tenants in St. Paul that rent was not raised a cent this year. We will do, the 3% increases normally, but because we got this grant, it brought our monthly costs way down, because we didn't have to take out the full $300,000 loan that we could have taken out. And the same with the commercial space that we were, we could do it at market rate and we would have had to, honestly, if we didn't get the grant. And now we're able to bring that cost down so that if there is a resource that, like we said, is something that our community really wants to have, that we can make it really affordable for them to do that. And so I don't know, I think there's just like those practical things that we hoped one day could happen. Like maybe in our third property, we'd finally be able to make these things happen. But because of, not just one person going in and therefore having to recoup all of the costs, but being able to have all these different resources, it's been really cool, even in the last month, to see just how a lot of these things we had in our vision have played out already. And I don't know, that's just been a really cool, unexpected thing, because we literally got the grant at 3:30 on Wednesday and we closed on the property at 12:30 on Thursday. So we're still just processing what this all means. But it's been really cool to see all of those things come together very last minute.
Can I ask
And
one?
Judy, yeah.
I was gonna say, can I ask one question? How did you find this property, and how do you intend to look or try to find, are you trying to solicit vacant properties or off-market properties or anything like that?
We had board members looking at properties really for the whole last year. We've toured, at least a dozen.
Or underutilized
Yeah.
property in South Como, we have been there.
That we had many conversations about, is this a little too far to be South Como? So we've gone to places I bet you never even thought of. But it's been really eye-opening and cool to learn more about what's going on in the neighborhood. But this particular property, we got connected with the previous owners, because they weren't a co-op. They were doing it privately as a business, but they had a very similar vision. They love this area, they live nearby, and it was important for them to have something that they could be proud of on that corner. And they felt like, you know, a team of people working in this model were gonna have an easier go of making that become a reality. And so as much as we sought out every property we could find, I think the initial connection was they called us, and that has been really great. And they were really great partners, flexible with how we had to do some things slow and some things fast. And so they've been really great. And I believe they might be some of those new co-op they were waiting until the sale was.
Nope, they're members.
Oh, they're members now.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're members of our co-op now. So they're shared owners of the property they were owners of before.
Yeah. Yeah, and it ended up being so perfect because we were not competitive. We reached out to them in March and we signed in November. And most spots were not going to wait for us to go through a loan process that was much longer than a traditional loan process, to go through the fundraising, preferred share raising, all of those things. And so honestly, like if we wouldn't have had somebody who was like, we are selling this space to you, it was off market, they hadn't had it, but they were gonna sell it no matter what, but they didn't have it up for sale yet. I don't think we wouldn't have been competitive in the market at that point. But what's really cool is once you have a property and you have assets and you have those kind of things, it makes the later purchases of properties, we're gonna be able to be a lot more competitive now than we were this first time around.
You hear her talking. This is how she talks, right? This is the next one. It's already on the horizon.
Have you thought about, looking at other areas in Como, or are you pretty committed to just the southern?
I think we're open to everything. When we first got together and called ourselves the South Como Co-op, I think we weren't sure exactly what we were getting ourselves into. And then we had a lot of debates of like, what is the border of South Como? And so we decided we weren't going to have a border. What we were going to do was have like an epicenter, and then it was going to be the areas between kind of Lexington in front and Como Front Dale, and then emanating out from there. So, you know, I think especially really anywhere, it was just important to us that we're kind of the flyover country of St. Paul, in a sense that people pass through our neighborhood to get to other neighborhoods, and we would like to become the next Grand. We want to be the baby Grand. And so there's areas in, you know, Como that have that same feel, where it's an amazing neighborhood, but people leave to go have dinner.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, if there's a vacant building in Como, don't hesitate. I bet if they haven't already looked at it.
Yeah.
We've probably looked at it, honestly, but yes.
And I realize that that's where most of the, commercial space is, but yeah.
Well, and I think like right now, our board is, like almost everybody on the board is in South Como. I think half of us are on the same street. And so I think one of our visions when we first thought this is like, you know, we all live pretty local, we're all hanging around our places, but we don't have a grocery store, or we leave to go get bananas, or those kind of things. And so I think at the beginning we all went, what are places we would walk to or bike to or meet at as community members. And so I think like we've looked at some places in Frogtown and things like that, and all of us are like, if we think that this is in that radius that we would bike to or walk to, that's kind of been our radius for us. But I think as our membership grows, as our board maybe grows, I think we have the flexibility to adapt to what is needed in our community. And the same we've talked about with like residential or commercial. Right now, our board is really interested in more commercial and mixed use things, but we do have a couple of people that would be really excited about affordable housing and residential spaces. And if we had enough momentum behind that. So I think there is a flexibility that we have around it. But yeah, if you have buildings, residential, commercial, mixed use, send them over. I think it's something that and the other thing is adjusting as funding is available. The local fund was is specifically for commercial spaces. So that was a big draw for us to be able to know that funding's there, but as needs and funding changes, we can also change with that too.
Everywhere can become South Como if they're lucky.
Front is not a county road, right? It's just a city street, I think. One thing you might think about as owners, business or potential, whatever, commercial owners, get the other commercial owners on front to somehow get together and work with a city to make front, have them go slower. I like, Baby Grand is one, I can refer Baby Selby. And the reason is Selby, they drive slow. They have to. And front, they drive so darn fast, it makes it harder for a commercial because they're going back faster, really fast. If you can slow down traffic on front, it's good for the neighborhood, certainly, but it is potentially good for you as businesses on front, I think. And so make it slower, more walkable. I think that's really something to think about.
Any other questions for our visitors right now? Well, I think that you have an audience of people who are all like, oh my God, this is so cool. We've got folks in the chat who are like, I'm interested. So thank you so much for taking time and for sharing with us. I know we've seen you tabling at some of our events before, and that we have the overlap of Jessica, but we are grateful for your time and your commitment to Como. So thank you for coming tonight.